I want the whole world to know that Louisville, Kentucky produces the greatest of all time. Hospitalize a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
Might be shopping it. That might be all, ladies and gentlemen.
Bodine, Kevin, what are we going to do? We're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I'm going to show them all who the real champion of the world is.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to our very special edition of The Greatest Louisville's Champion. I'm Doug Proffitt. For the next hour here, live, we're going to be taking a look back at the life of the extraordinary man known around the world for his skills inside the ring and a heart for people. You know, Renee, whenever you tell people, hey, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, they say Ali or the Derby.
Right, the home of Muhammad Ali. Well, how did the young man from West Louisville become a figure that would inspire a generation not even born yet? Well, we've spent hours going through some never-before-seen video of Muhammad Ali and his time spent here in his hometown. We'll talk to some of the people who knew him best and what his legacy will be.
This film you're seeing here just came into us this week. That's how new this is. Seen for the first time. And tonight we're going to introduce you to some special guests who are in town. We begin with our Cheryl Preheim, who's from our sister station KUSA in Denver, with a look at how the community is inspired by Muhammad Ali. Cheryl, you've seen some great comments.
Incredible. You know, it doesn't matter someone's age, their background, their personal experiences. Everyone connecting to something about Muhammad Ali that has influenced them, inspired them. Leave it to the man larger than life to make us look at a deeper look at our own.
Just seeing how loved he was.
He's just like a giving person.
He was extremely nice guy.
Selflessly genuine.
What will people remember after you've lived your final day?
He has such an impact on my life.
Have you ever wondered, what will they say when you're gone?
The confidence that he had was the confidence that I lacked.
You hear it a lot. Muhammad Ali was larger than life. That is proving true since his death. His mark has not diminished. It is growing even still, as we remember.
Outside the ring, too, he had so much influence.
When he came home with Olympic gold in 1960, he was refused service at a restaurant in his segregated hometown.
I went to a restaurant here in Louisville, and I got turned down. At the time, we couldn't eat in the white restaurants.
Could he ever have imagined people would talk about how he helped break race barriers without fists?
Made me stand up, made me not want to be a victim of bullying.
Muhammad Ali was stripped of titles and opportunity, called a criminal and coward for refusing to fight in a war he felt was not just. Could he ever have imagined people would one day describe him as an American hero?
He inspired a lot of people to stand up for what they believed in.
Would he have guessed that his greatest strength was revealed in the weaknesses of Parkinson's? People marveling at the dignity, faith, and humor through 3 decades of affliction.
Obviously, he's one of the greatest athletes to ever live.
No one will ever match him as a boxer, the greatest. But the biggest punches Muhammad Ali ever threw had no gloves. They did not end with the final bell or his life.
Give me things to believe in and things to actually want to change.
He let go of money, status, and reputation to stand for what was deeply important to him.
He's given me confidence in myself. And because of Mr. Ali, I will be a better leader.
That's what people are talking about now. It inspires. Because it is something every one of us can do.
I want to be remembered for being caring.
To inspire people that they can be whatever they want to be.
We can all fight a little harder for what really matters most in our lives.
I always wanted to do good and raise my family good.
That will be remembered.
You know, there really is something about hearing what people say about him that makes you consider, what would somebody say about me? The depth of what people remember. And, you know, very few in the grand scheme of things were lucky enough to ever shake his hand and meet him in person, yet millions of people all around the world would say, I have been inspired by Ali, and they would have a very specific example of what that was.
And this week has really kind of reminded us all about how he lived his life and how we can live our own lives.
Absolutely. So it's been so neat to hear from so many of you about how you've been inspired by Ali. We're hearing from people who are thinking about the impact they want to make as well. So here are some of your responses. You know Heather, yes. Heather Fontaine. She says Muhammad Ali had the courage to fight in the ring, to fight for his beliefs, to fight for his rights. That's why I'm inspired by Ali. Latrice Montgomery shared with us that Ali persevered during a time that our country looked at the black man as less than a man pushing forward. No matter what injustices he faced, he showed the world that no matter what you are faced with, you can rise above. He stood up for what he believed in with regards to faith, showed the world that it's okay to have your own beliefs and not succumb to what the world thinks you should do. He worked hard to show that in a world full of hate, he could hopefully someday unite as one. There are numerous contributions he made not only to Louisville, but to the world. A true humanitarian and philanthropist, our hometown hero, so glad that he was blessed with his presence. So we're asking all of you to share your inspiration. Just keep using the hashtag Inspired by Ali.
All right, we've been getting such great response on this. We look forward to getting and hearing more from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Well, thousands of people from around the United States and the world are already streaming right here into Louisville, where they are visiting the places that are so important to the legend of Ali.
Well, one of those places is the Muhammad Ali Center, and our reporter Bruce Johnson is there. He was born and raised right here in Louisville and is a reporter for our sister station in Washington, D.C. He joins us now live, and you can see that crowd that's behind him, one of the biggest crowds we've had this week.
Bruce, we want to welcome you home. We're glad you're with us here tonight. How large is the crowd right now, and what's your impression of how it's been growing since the Ali Center will be closed tomorrow?
You know, I want to say to both of you, first off, you know, thanks for the welcome. This is one story I wasn't going to miss for the world. Somebody once said to me that, you know, something will always bring you back home, if nothing but death in the family. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Those of us from Louisville who have gone far and then even further, we're going to be back for this occasion. You got about 100 to 150 people out here now. I think that's about 50 short of what it was about 10 minutes ago. They're coming in droves, in waves. And there are a number of people from out of town. You would expect the people from Louisville work downtown, you get off work, you come by. But I've run into people from, you know, the Muslim faith from the Washington, D.C. area. I've done stories with them there. I've met a black guy, you know, who's not from Louisville. He's from D.C., but he runs a martial arts program for inner city young black people. He's here, and he brought all 6 of his sons here because he's teaching them. This is part of their education, their socialization on who Muhammad Ali is. Let's face it. Most of the people watching this and have been listening to you guys, and you're doing great coverage, you're not sugarcoating this at all. Most of these people never knew Muhammad Ali. They were not around when his first fights were on radio. They were not around when he first started fighting and knocking people out and claiming himself to be the greatest. It was all part of the show. He knew exactly what he was doing. They don't know about him refusing to go into the service. He wasn't a draft dodger. He was a conscientious objector. He didn't run. He stayed and fought. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court. He had great legal representation. They don't know about him becoming a black Muslim at a time when there were no black Muslims to speak of in Louisville. This is the Bible Belt. He was supposed to be a Baptist, as one of my old friends said to me today. But they came around to understanding this guy, understanding the Muslims and their faith also. He was an incredibly great man. That's why I'm here. Live not far from them, would see him in the neighborhoods. Just didn't want to miss this, and I appreciate this opportunity to be part of your coverage.
Thank you very much, Bruce, for joining us here tonight, live from the Ali Center.
Glad to have him with us here for the next couple of days. Well, champion of the world, not just once, but 3 times. For most athletes, that would certainly have been enough to retire and live on in the records book, but most athletes are not Muhammad Ali.
And it's still amazing that that journey started when he was 12 years old. It's ironic that a man who first caught the world's attention because of his stunning triumphs in the ring should find that his greatest impact was global. Tonight, we're taking a look back at his life for you. Recently, I interviewed two former WHAS News broadcasters. You know them well. They interviewed Ali a lot. Van Vance and Dave Conrad. They were face to face with the champ.
I was born by the river in a little tent.
He was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. right here in Louisville, Kentucky in 1942. At the age of 12, he began to dedicate himself to becoming the greatest of all time. It was Rome 1960, the Olympic final. Clay's opponent is 9 years older, but he faced a size and speed never seen before. The youngster from the West End knew he would win.
Jabbing and moving, speed, natural reflexes, beat him.
Everyone began to realize this was something singular and new, first as a young man at the Olympics winning a gold medal.
And it was a good feeling standing on the center stone, getting the gold medal. It was real thrilling.
Then as a champion athlete with skills that seemed to reinvent the sport, and that famous proclamation.
I took up the world! I took up the world!
He told us right here years later why he gave the gold medal that supposedly famous toss into the Ohio River.
Funny thing happened. I went to a restaurant here in Louisville, and I got turned down. At the time, we couldn't eat in the white restaurants. I got mad and threw the medal in the Ohio River, and now I wish I had my medal.
His dreams became destiny, carrying a message of hope along for the ride, a principle learned by students at the Muhammad Ali Center today on the Council for Students. Their goal is to get students engaged in the community, to create good citizens and find their own greatness.
Show me the kind of things, give me things to believe in and things to actually want to change.
He was fast, bold, and brash.
He made a living off of being the lip. And it ain't brag if you could back it up.
And finally, his powerful heart, awakening, socially, politically, and spiritually forcing the world to stop and listen. Some loved him for what he had to say, but others hated him for refusing induction into the U.S. Armed Forces.
Whatever it is, I'm sure that it's his will, Allah. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not relying on lawyers or nothing. They can do as much as they can legally to trying to get justice from the whites of America. But if we can't get justice here, then we'll just go on and suffer.
He was sentenced to 5 months in prison and fined $10,000. But another judge returned Ali to the ring, ruling the Athletic Commission violated Ali's constitutional rights when it banned him from boxing. And when many turned their backs on him, he always kept his eyes on his promise. Muhammad Ali has often said, "I just stood up for what I believed in." Standing up, yes, and standing a little taller. Perhaps that's why he could see so clearly what the world could be. He saw intolerance, taking on some of the greatest foes, racial injustice, war, and hatred. And there were a lot of people who believed in his views, but few would have been willing to sacrifice what he did to stay true to them.
It actually interrupted his career and his life and his income and everything. So he paid a price. There's no doubt he paid a price, but then he was able to come back and regain his championship. That was quite amazing.
And even today, after decades of failing health and weakness, his very name embodies courage and strength. Children all over the world who knew nothing of the Thrilla in Manila or the rumble in the jungle know Muhammad Ali and love him as a man of peace.
And because of what I learned about Muhammad Ali and his principles, made me stand up, made me not want to be a victim of bullying. So I went to my principal. I actually helped establish a bullying program at my elementary school in rural Virginia.
He's given me confidence in myself. And because of Mr. Ali, I will be a better leader. Because of Mr. Ali, I will be a better president of my class.
So what was it about Ali that drew so many to him? Perhaps it was his gift of charm that helped us celebrate the things that bring us together and not those that set us apart. Perhaps it's his gifts of love and joy. The mere sight of him holding that Olympic torch brought people to tears. In that moment, he rose higher and cast a brighter light than the Olympic flame himself in Atlanta and ignited our own dreams of reaching higher.
He created the stage and then walked on that stage and delivered for an entire lifetime.
Atlanta, such a turning point for the champ. You've just heard the stories of a few people who say Muhammad Ali changed their lives. That's the theme we want you to share with us as we honor and remember Ali. He made a difference to so many people around the world, so we want to know your inspirational stories. How has the champ changed your life? You can send them to us using the Twitter hashtag #InspiredByAli. And I got to tell you, I just absolutely love this picture because even when you think we've seen all the photographs of Muhammad Ali, suddenly this one popped up within the last few days right after his death. This is Ali running the track at Churchill Downs. This is 1963, the year before winning the title from Sonny Liston. And it was taken by sports photographer Kurt Gunther. It's unknown why he was on the track. He was still known at this moment as Cassius Clay. But several of the 11-member Louisville sponsoring group, the wealthy businessmen here in town, they did have connections with Churchill Downs.
Really nice. Yes, it is nice.
Tonight, one of the people who knew Muhammad Ali best, his neighbor in West Louisville, Lawrence Montgomery, takes a look at some never-before-seen video of the champ in his element. Hear what he's saying about the climate in West Louisville now that the champ is gone.
I leaned into Ali and I touched cheeks. And I said, "We love you, champ."
And he's another Louisville treasure. Ed Hamilton, the local sculptor known for immortalizing people and figures around the country, talks about the 12-foot reminder of the champ in Louisville's Smoketown neighborhood. As we get you ready for tomorrow's Global Memorial, you know, boxing in our city was huge when Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, was just getting started. There were boxing gyms in every nook and cranny of this town. They were stuck in corners you wouldn't even believe now. And our city's relationship with Muhammad Ali and his relationship with Louisville is so complicated. As part of our coverage here tonight, we got two of our own together again. We met over at the Ali Center where I wanted to know, where does Ali's heart truly lie?
I don't want Chicago or New York or Texas or nowhere to take the credit for all I've done. It's Louisville. So I want y'all to know that we in Louisville are the greatest of all time.
Born here, his raw boxing talent discovered here. He weighed 89 pounds when he started his boxing career right in this spot. The basement of this building, now Spalding University, once the site of the Columbia Gym on 4th Street.
Thank you, Kaywood. How you feeling?
I feel fine. I was going to ask you that.
He was discovered by his hometown media. WHAS TV's legendary sports director Kaywood Ledford started following him in high school in the 50s, first putting him on television, and right here interviewing Cassius Clay at Stanford Field after he won the Olympic medal in 1960.
Cassius, you've heard it a good many times today already here at the airport, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at that real gold medal there.
Thank you.
The highest award that can come to an amateur athlete.
Look at the crowd in the airport. But what did Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali, think of his own hometown?
But it's time now for Cassius to stop talking and start fighting. Known as the Louisville Lip, which identifies his hometown and, of course, his way with a word. And it all started in a gym much as the one we're in right now, right here in the city of Louisville.
Louisville was slow to honor him. It was a near battle in the Board of Aldermen to get Walnut Street renamed Muhammad Ali Boulevard in 1978. Two men who say they know the answer are WHAS veterans.
I shook up the world.
Dave Conrad replaced Kaywood when he became the voice of the Kentucky Wildcats.
The man had a lot of personality.
And Van Vance was hired by Kaywood Ledford. Both men interviewed the champ often.
I always thought that, yeah, he had great feelings about Louisville and maybe some of the customs and things of Louisville before we had the full integration and all of that. And I'm not talking about the busing now. I'm talking about the downtown area, you know, the Blue Boars and the places you could go in and eat and do all of that.
The sit-ins.
Yeah, the sit-ins. That he did. I don't think he approved of all of that anywhere, and especially in Louisville. But I think he still liked Louisville a lot.
Conrad agrees, saying the Louisville Lip may not have been his favorite nickname. He named himself the greatest, but Ali still loved his hometown.
His blood's here. He takes great pride in saying, I'm from Louisville. He takes a great deal of pride. Despite all of the problems and the issues, he never fails to recognize and respect the city of Louisville and the people of Louisville.
The first banner of famous people hung on the side of buildings in Louisville is now the oldest, Muhammad Ali's. His hearse will pass right by it on I-64 as he also passes by the Ali Center in the final tour of what we can now say is obviously his beloved hometown, the final resting place.
We in Louisville are the greatest of all time.
So I think we can say confidently now, with the Ali Center destination expected to only grow bigger and his decision to be buried here, Muhammad Ali is sending another message to us all about his true hometown. Well, also, you're about to see some film that really surprised us all this week. That's because we have never seen views like this of Ali in his hometown. Movies taken by his attorney and friend at the time when the boxer was turning pro.
And David Schechter is joining us now with that story, someone else who is helping us out here. He is from Dallas and joining us, showing us these rare images of Muhammad Ali that we're just now seeing this week. Hard to believe. We've never seen him before.
And his parents, you see his parents, you'll see them in this clip here. It's such an honor to see this stuff. It's all these nooks and crannies where people have a picture of him or have video or film of him, and it's all coming out now, and I think it's painting a more complete picture, at least to my eye, and you guys would be the pros on that, but it does feel that way.
And look closely. There's a freckled-faced little girl at the end there. We think that's Lani Ali.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right, well, let's keep an eye on that. We have this unguarded moment of Muhammad Ali around Louisville, and we found that this footage is just part of this puzzle we talked about that really completes a larger picture of who he was. It's the early 60s, and Ali is coming home to a warm, welcoming crowd. The footage was taken by attorney Henry Sadlow Sr., but when they try to put a crown and a cape on the champ, he's having none of it. The center of attention, as always.
These pictures are all jumbled up.
This is Lawrence Montgomery, and he has an impressive Muhammad Ali archive of his own.
That's Muhammad, and that's me.
Magic tricks performed in his living room, programs from visits to the White House, with notes written in Ali's hand. Love is the net. Her hearts are caught like fish. All his life, Montgomery was like an older brother to Ali, and still lives on the West Louisville street where Ali grew up.
Muhammad was like bologna sandwiches. He and his brother. So when he babysat for me, my children, he didn't want any money or anything. All I had to do was have a bologna in my refrigerator. And I always kept plenty of bologna for he and Rockman. Yes.
That's
sure
a great story.
Uh-huh.
So you paid him with bologna sandwiches?
Oh, I loaded them up with bologna sandwiches.
Look at this one. Kids playing on this very same street. The little boy in the white shirt on the deep right, sitting on a wagon. That was Cassius Clay.
There we are there with the mayor, and that's me.
Montgomery loved Ali like a brother. Still loves him. And it was mutual. What's it like to be loved by Muhammad Ali?
It's indescribable. I can't describe it. It was just one of those things, just like a brother, you know. I don't know. And for my life to be spared, and he's gone, is just overwhelming.
But with rare, playful images like these, the memory of Ali will likely outlast us all. It was a real pleasure to meet you.
It's my pleasure.
You got any bologna sandwiches in there for me?
I just had one. A bologna and egg sandwich, yes, I just had one.
The pictures were fantastic. These just little nuggets of his life that are very from private moments, because there's so many public moments that we see all the time.
Well, let me ask you, you're from Dallas, and now you come in from his hometown. I'm sure you had an impression of Ali before you came into his hometown. I can't imagine a member time being alive where I had never heard his name. It's like a brand name, GE and Ford. What are your impressions here?
You know, that's a great question. I feel like going into his neighborhood, where he was a childhood home, and still having neighbors there in these formative years of his life and remembering him, and actually, that little picture of him as a little kid right there, and you think, man, anybody could grow up to be Muhammad Ali one day. I mean, there are one in a million, one in a billion, whatever. But it's just this little seed of hope came from there.
It humanized him for you.
Yes, yes, it's been a great experience. And I would also say that that program that they had from when he went to the White House. So he took Mr. Montgomery to the White House with him. This was when Jimmy Carter was president, and Ali had written in his own hand all these inspirational quotes for no apparent reason, I think, other than just to give it to his friend with these beautiful quotes that were on there. And it's just really touching to see his handwriting on there.
See his notes on there.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Good to have you with us. Well, the champ's life and legacy, of course, is being remembered in tributes around the world. Mike Bush is here with the story of a world-famous artist inspired by Ali. Mike comes to our St. Louis station. Mike?
Well, his work can be seen all over the country, but it's the tribute to Ali and Louisville's great boxing history standing in Smoketown that's become one of his proudest accomplishments. Some men work with their hands. Others work from the heart.
Public sculpture is to make you think, provoke you.
And to stand the test of time. But Ed Hamilton's Smoketown Monument is on the move.
They wanted to put it in a prime space out of the street so now people can interact like a park setting.
Standing in the shadow of the former Presbyterian Community Center where Muhammad Ali once trained, the 12-foot stainless steel sculpture is of two boxing gloves overlapping to form a heart.
It's an homage to our famous boxers, and particularly the greatest.
He was
the
an
man
artist.
Was an, yeah.
He was an artist, a true artist.
Muhammad Ali was the inspiration, but visitors always have their own interpretation.
It's definitely strong looking, like it's, you know, the steel makes power.
Strength, courage.
Just blocks from the monument is where Hamilton carved his reputation.
It was just something that just kind of came natural to me.
Walking through his studio is like walking through a museum, but these walls cannot contain his talent. Whether it's his sculpture of York, the slave who was a key member of the Lewis and Clark expedition on the Louisville riverfront, or the Spirit of Freedom Commission in Washington, D.C., or even the monumental bronze of another great boxer, Joe Louis in Detroit, his hometown may be Louisville, but Hamilton's art belongs to the world. But this week, as he works on his next piece, he remembers one of the times he met Ali and presented him with a sculpture of strength, a small pyramid.
And I leaned into Ali and I touched cheeks and I said, "We love you, champ."
Just this week, the artist took his fingers off the carving tools and onto a keyboard to write a letter to Ali. Though he never got it, Hamilton hopes that he will somehow hear it.
You have always been a hero to so many. As a man, you were always a master of your craft. You were the messenger for standing up for your convictions and providing impetus for everyone to take pride in themselves. You, my friend, will live forever in our hearts.
Two native sons with disciplines that aren't really much different at all. They were able to become poets with their hands. And Hamilton told me he'd liked his next work to be an actual sculpture of Ali. He's already working on ideas. Mike Bush, WHAS 11 News.
All right, Mike, thank you. Well, he is one of the pallbearers. Jerry Ellis is the brother of one of Ali's oldest friends and sparring partners. He tells us why this is such an honor for him. Coming up.
He was very humble. He was not a person who would go out and boast and brag.
Quite an honor to have her with us this week. She's talking about the man who discovered the greatest. That's her grandfather, Joe Martin of the Columbia Gym. Coming up, hear more from the only living relative of the man who got Muhammad Ali into boxing. Muhammad Ali will have some notable names as pallbearers and honorary pallbearers for his memorial service tomorrow.
That's right. Some of those names include actor Will Smith, who played Muhammad Ali in the 2001 movie. He's also a family friend. Lennox Lewis, the former heavyweight champion of the world. 8 men in all were chosen as the official funeral pallbearers.
Now, there's also an extensive list of honorary pallbearers as well, and that list includes 14 names, including Rahman Ali, Ali's brother, photographer Howard Bingham, who documented Ali's life, former heavyweight champion George Foreman, Larry Holmes, and Dr. Harvey Sloan, the former Louisville mayor, who was mayor here throughout the 70s and had a lot of interactions with Muhammad Ali.
And on that list you saw scrolling there, one of the names of one of the few people who has the privilege of being a pallbearer in tomorrow's memorial service.
Jerry Ellis is the brother of Jimmy Ellis, the first sparring partner for Cassius Clay at the Columbia Gym, and sports director Kent Spencer sat down with Jerry to talk to him about what this means to him. Kent?
Yeah, Jerry said he got the call from Lonnie Ali on the day they brought Muhammad Ali back to Louisville. Jerry Ellis grew up alongside Muhammad Ali and his brother Jimmy, 2 kids from Louisville who would both grow up to be world champions. They were his heroes. He talked with me about the honor he will perform.
One of the most touching moments in my life. I felt like that was the ultimate honor to be allowed to show my family's love and respect for Ali and his family. After all they've done for the Ellis family and displayed toward us, it meant the world to me.
Jimmy Ellis and Muhammad Ali were inseparable growing up, and Jimmy's younger brother Jerry got to see their relationship up close.
Ali was just like a big brother. Very enjoyable to be around.
Jimmy and Ali fought together out of the same Louisville gym growing up. This picture was taken after the New York Golden Gloves event. Their coach, Joe Martin, the police officer who taught them how to box. Later, when Ali moved to Miami, he advised Jimmy to join him and become his sparring partner.
You notice I smile because it changed the world for Jimmy and his family and our family.
After Ali was stripped of his title in 1967, Jimmy won a tournament for the WBA Heavyweight Championship.
You have to realize that when Ali lost the title due to the suspension, he was Jimmy's biggest fan. He told Jimmy, he said, hey, if I don't have it, I hope you have it.
Eventually, the two fought on July 26, 1971 in the Houston Astrodome, dubbed the inevitable fight. Ali won by TKO in the 12th round. Despite the fact, the families remain close.
I always called him Champ. I said, hi, Champ. And he turned and looked at me, it's like, what did you call me? I said, Champ. He said, no, you didn't. I said, what did I call you? You call me Chump. I'm not your chump. It's like, Ali, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. And he'd walk away and then wink at someone, and it's like, Ali, why do you do that to me?
Over the years, Jerry didn't see Ali as frequent and watched his Parkinson's disease take hold of his body. Jimmy died 2 years ago after a battle with Alzheimer's.
Their souls are in the same place and they're friends again, and I'm sure they're going to be friends for the rest of eternity.
Some irony here, both Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Ellis died at the age of 74. Both died from septic shock.
All right, thank you very much, Kent. Well, now to the man who changed the course of Muhammad Ali's life. Ali's introduction to boxing fans was courtesy of a Louisville police officer. His name was Joe Martin. Muhammad Ali was just 12 years old when he met Martin, who was also a boxing coach. Martin tells the story to former sports reporter Kaywood Ledford in his own words.
Around to tell me the story about someone had stolen his bike, and he was very upset about it and wanted to find out who it was so he could whip him. And so in the talking, I asked him, I said, do you know how to fight? He said, well, no, I've never fought, but he said, this is one time I would. So after a long talk, I finally got him to quit his crying and told him that I would turn it into the police department, and that if he really wanted to fight, he should come down and be taught properly. So it wasn't but a night or two after that that he did start training, and he was very conscientious trainer and came very regularly. And of course, people knows the past history. He won the National Golden Gloves a couple of times, the National AAU and the Olympics, and was very successful at it. He was a great amateur fighter.
And while Joe Martin is no longer with us, we were able to have the unique perspective of his personal life by his only living relative. His granddaughter was in town this week and shared her memories of her grandfather, telling us that he was the type of man who would let his granddaughter put barrettes in his hair, but also had a strong conviction about personal discipline when it mattered.
If you knew my granddad, you knew that he was a very no-nonsense, stern person who respected discipline, and he believed in it.
Well, she said that her father never boasted about his role. Her grandfather never boasted about his role in Muhammad Ali's historic career, but was always willing to sit down and share if anyone asked. And what stories he could tell.
Well, I got to tell you, to me, she's one of the biggest stars here. The reason why Joe Martin, think about that, 1954, this was a very segregated town. Joe Martin, a white police officer ahead of his time, insisted that that gym be desegregated. People of all walks of life, he wanted them in that gym, and that's where Cassius Clay flourished. And whether he was Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali, one thing was always certain: if you went to see him fight, you knew you were going to see something great.
And great matches they were. Our sports director Kent Spencer is joining us now with more of some of Muhammad Ali's greatest rounds in the ring.
In so many different ways to see him fight. Maybe you were old enough to watch it live. You would either go to a fight, watch it on television. Well, if you're not, then you have to rely on television replays or, let's face it, the internet. However, if you've seen Muhammad Ali work, you know those fights with Liston, Frazier, Foreman are some of the greatest of all time.
Bodine, tell him, what are we going to do? You're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Furious power, blistering speed. That combination defined 22-year-old Cassius Clay both in and out of the ring.
If somebody wants to whoop me, I'll kiss his feet in the ring.
The Louisville Lip was the #1 contender. Also, a 7-1 heavy underdog to the heavyweight champ, Sonny Liston. In that ring in Miami, Cassius Clay changed the landscape of boxing.
Seconds remaining in the 6th.
After a dominant 6th round, Liston didn't come out for a 7th.
They might be stopping it. That might be all, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the world.
9 days later, Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali. 7 years later, he'd meet the greatest competition of his life.
Get down quick, Joe.
The first fight with Frazier would be deemed the fight of the century. Packed Madison Square Garden sat stunned as Ali lost the fight by unanimous decision. The rivalry with Frazier blossomed into a rematch, a fight Ali would win, forcing a third and deciding bout, the Thrilla in Manila.
Frazier looks awful tired and puffed around both eyes now.
In that third fight, Ali came out victorious, retaining his title. But how he got that title might be due to the greatest strategy of Ali's career.
This is an awesome power of George Foreman against the varied boxing skills of Muhammad Ali.
The Rumble in the Jungle. Ali took on George Foreman, a fighter whose power was unmatched. So Ali tired Foreman with a strategy that will forever be known as the rope-a-dope.
And he worked over the shoulder of Foreman.
Toward the end of his career, Ali was already a 2-time world heavyweight champion. Again, revenge took center stage. At the age of 36, Muhammad Ali lost his title to Leon Spinks in a split decision. 7 months later, the two squared off again. Ali had become boxing's first 3-time heavyweight champ. Furious power, blistering speed. The greatest of all time. Ali had his final fight on December 11, 1981 against Trevor Berbick. He retired with a record of 56-5. 3 years later, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. From suits to shorts, a crown, and even cash. Capturing Muhammad Ali's power and persona in a single image could only be done by the best. That is what Sports Illustrated did 40 times over the champ's lifetime, featuring Ali on the Fame magazine cover. The first issue came in June of '63, a young Cassius Clay seemingly looking ahead to what would become a historic career. Another cover reminds us not even a broken jaw could silence the Louisville Lip. The 40th cover hit stands next week, looking back on Ali's life, noting his impact will continue to move forward.
Thank you, Kent. A true collector's item there.
Well, it certainly is rare that you can trace a legend to an exact street or an exact building, but in Louisville, one place just south of Broadway on 4th reveals the answers to more than just one question.
We went back and traced it. It's been 60 years since Cassius Clay, later known as Ali, first walked into a boxing gym, but his fame overshadows the importance of that smelly, smoky place and what it was doing at the time for Louisville.
Make Louisville an open city.
It may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important.
1954, Louisville is still a black and white world, separated.
I remember when I was a kid, you could walk up to a water fountain, it would say whites only, blacks only.
Signs like these hung across the city. At 9 years old, with a fascination of boxing, James Doolin, like a lot of Louisville's young boys, was about to have his life changed as Louisville was changing.
Got off a bus on Broadway, walked down the street, and walked down the steps.
One underground spot on 4th Street was already ahead of its time in the nation and in Louisville. The separation of blacks and whites was not happening at the Louisville Service Club, home to the Columbia Gym.
Everyone was accepted.
The gym was owned by the Louisville Parks Department and run by a Louisville cop named Joe Martin.
During that time in the city, blacks and whites couldn't train together. So Joe Martin stopped all that.
This is also part of where it began as inclusiveness as a city and accepting everyone together. That vision of Joe Martin having a spot for everyone.
Louisville's boxing scene was setting the tone for the city's early civil rights movement.
Back then, boxing was big in Louisville, big. It was the #1 boxing town in America.
Across the city, boxing gyms were squeezed into the corners of buildings everywhere. Doolin remembers walking into Columbia.
Sound like speed bag going on, smelled, all boxing gyms smell sweat, you know, gloves, and it was just everybody working out.
It was where, at the same time, a young boy at 89 pounds was starting to make his name.
A skinny kid, tall.
Hospitalize a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
He was a comedian. He was, you know, he liked to talk and liked to play games, and he liked to tell you about him.
Who's the greatest?
I didn't believe he'd make it, if you want to know the truth.
You can trace the very spot in Louisville where the legend began. Coming up next, what prompted Cassius Clay to ride his bike from 33rd and Grand to 4th Street in the first place? And what has happened to the Columbia Gym?
One of my favorite quotes for you right there on the screen. So how did an old basement boxing gym become so important to the history of Louisville? And where is it today? Well, this building was one amazing place. It was the Louisville Service Club, created for World War II GIs returning home. It also housed the Louisville Orchestra, which was getting national recognition. And in the basement, the Columbia Boxing Gym. At the time, as far as you could get from a young boy's home on 33rd and Grand in West Louisville. It was the summer of 1954. 12-year-old Cassius Clay is riding his $60 red bicycle along this very sidewalk on 4th Street with his brother and a friend. They parked their bikes right along in here. Why are they here? Well, they're heading into this building to attend what's called the Louisville Home Show.
The Home Show was a segregated event for African Americans only. The building is seen in these old photos. It still exists and is now Spalding University.
Cassius Clay came to attend the home show and see what was going on. That he heard that there was free food and free snacks.
While inside, his bike was stolen, so he ran back into the building, running down these very steps, looking for police officer Joe Martin. Martin himself told WHAS-TV's legendary sports director Kay Wood-Ledford what happened next in this interview from the 1960s.
So he was very disturbed about it, and someone sent him downstairs to see me because they told him that he should report it to the police, and I was the closest police officer at that time. So he came down to tell me the story about someone had stolen his bike, and he was very upset about it and wanted to find out who it was so he could whip him. And so in the talking, I asked him, I said, do you know how to fight? He said, well, no, I've never fought, but he said, this is one time I would. So after a long talk, I finally got him to quit his crying and told him that I would turn it into the police department, and that if he really wanted to fight, he should come down and be taught properly.
The legend, of course, grew into the greatest. But what happened to the Columbia Gym where it all started? National writers have reported that it's a parking lot, or one just a few years ago who wrote, it's now a basketball court. All wrong. There are few photographs existing of the gym, which opened in the late 20s and was still there in 1963 when the Sisters of Nazareth bought the building for Nazareth College. Our search led to one striking view unearthed by the U of L Archives and Special Collections Department. This smoky, hazy scene of an actual fight underway in 1938, 16 years before Cassius Clay would walk inside. Doolin remembers the smell of the place to this day.
It was very old. It was musty. It's like a basement.
The Career Journal photo archives show a bit more. Here's Clay with Joe Martin in the Columbia boxing ring. This film shows Clay fresh out of training at Columbia, getting ready for his first professional fight at Freedom Hall in 1960. Here he is in 1961, practicing with sparring partner Jimmy Ellis for an upcoming fight. At this point, Clay is 6'2", 192 pounds. Even today, when you tour the building, which is now Spalding, very little has changed.
So this was one of the entrances to get to the gym.
Yes, it was.
You're in the basement.
Yes, in the basement.
Came down, you think he came down this stairwell?
Probably so.
But remember, in 1963, the place was purchased by the Nuns of the Nazareth. And a boxing gym?
They wanted a bookstore. Well, they just eliminated the gym because, you know, most of their students didn't box. This area was the boxing gym, Columbia Gym. And now we have it as our student athlete center.
So this is where it all started?
This is where it all started,
This is the exact space?
This is the exact space.
So from the rope-a-dope to the haymaker punch, now to ping pong and billiards. I had to ask the Spalding students.
How many of you guys know that this is where Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali started his career, right here in this space? Yeah. Yes. You're aware of it? Yep. Yeah. Yep. Is that pretty neat? Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was the boxing ring. Oh, wow. Dang. Yeah. I didn't know that.
The university now honors the space with this quote from Ali about how he overcame his hate for training, a lasting tribute to the gym that launched the three-time world heavyweight champion.
There wouldn't be anywhere he could park his bicycle. There wouldn't have been anywhere he could walk down the steps. There wouldn't have been anywhere he could learn to box, you know?
Louisville, Kentucky. As you know, I think that I'm the greatest, and I'm not supposed to be on the floor, so I had to get up and put him on out.
He just had to do it. Well, as a boxing student at Columbia, Clay needed a part-time job, so the Nuns hired him across the street at Nazareth College to do maintenance work. They became friends and huge fans for life, and they followed his boxing matches, listening on radio and watching on TV. And Renee, I called Spalding today. They're getting overwhelmed by tourists.
Oh, I'm sure.
People taking pictures. They had a Japanese television news crew there doing interviews today. Just quite amazing.
Amazing there.
Well, very few people can say they discovered their dream as a child and lived their life fulfilling it. Ali is certainly one of those folks.
That's right. A man from Chicago who found his passion at the age of 14 is another man. Casey Nolan shows us years later their lives would cross paths and bring them back to Louisville.
To honor a man of the world, they've come from around the globe.
I came all the way from Jerusalem.
Strangers finding new friends.
Let me give you my number.
Bonded by some of their greatest memories.
He gave us, as black people, a lot of hope.
Thursday, as thousands filled Louisville's Freedom Center for a traditional Muslim prayer service to honor Muhammad Ali.
They wanted me to check my camera to some place over there, and I said no.
This unassuming 79-year-old settled for a seat outside, which he didn't seem to mind, perhaps because he's already known what it's like to be on the inside.
I became the photographer with Ali for his manager, who was Herbert Muhammad.
For 25 years, Lowell Riley traveled with Ali,
I guess I've been around the world 6 or 7 times.
photographing his charismatic career.
I'm right there on the apron like this.
And as a witness to his greatness when no one was watching.
And this drunk, I called him, come up to Ali shaking and carrying on. He said, "Champ, can I get some money?" And Ali looked at him. He said, "What's the matter with you?" I'm cold. Ali had a cashmere coat on. He took it off and put it around him. That blew me away. But that was the kind of guy he is. He just loved people. I don't think he don't like seeing nobody suffer.
And like the way he inspired so many,
I just enjoyed being with him.
Riley credits Ali for a career that captured him.
It means that I could live my dream, and my dream was photography. It's a great loss because he inspired a lot of people.
Mr. Riley is quick to say that he was the second photographer for Ali. He was working for Ali's manager, and he gives credit to Ali's personal photographer, as a lot of us know, Howard Bingham, as being the primary man behind the lens. Renee and Doug.
Thank you, Casey, for joining us here tonight, and thank you for joining us for our special coverage here from 7 to 8. We've got a lot more ahead for you. Coming up, our coverage begins tomorrow very early, 4:30 in the morning.
That's right. We have complete coverage all day long, again, starting at 4:30, going all the way till 6:30 in the evening. We hope that you will join us as the city says a fond farewell to Muhammad Ali. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.
This is the legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter in the world today. He talks a great deal and brags indeed.
I'm young, I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
Like a butterfly stings like a bee.
I go where true love goes, I go where true love goes. I go where true love goes, I go where true love goes.
What would you like people to think about you when you've gone?
I'd like for them to say he took a few cups of love. He took 1 tablespoon of patience, 1 teaspoon of generosity, 1 pint of kindness. He took 1 quart of laughter, 1 pinch of concern, and then he mixed willingness with happiness. He added lots of faith, and he stirred it up well. Then he spread it over a span of a lifetime, and he served it to each and every deserving person he met.
Muhammad Ali, thank you very much.